In between Caracas and Punto Fijo City, a teenage girl's imagination traveled as much as her parents drove her into unfamiliarity within her home country. Although she moved often to different locations, she felt intimate with the people of Venezuela. However, the bonds she formed were left behind in the year of 2017 when she had to begin a new life in Lebanon. Rayan Mansour is a Lebanese Venezuelan writer, artist, human rights advocate, and educator. Rayan was born and raised in Venezuela and lived there until she moved to Lebanon 4 years ago. From a very early age, she would spend nights locked up in her room, drawing, reading, painting, and writing journal entries and stories. This episode features her work and personal stories interacting with my own. um we talk about speaking to strangers because I speak to strangers all the time. That's my thing. Like, I like speaking to strangers. Like, I
Yeah.
know I do, and I have to use good judgment sometimes, but at the same time it's kind of like I have to do it because I don't know how else to gain insights. And it's like kind of like how this conversation is going. Like, you're a stranger to me, like, what, like maybe like an hour ago. It's the first time I'm talking to you. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, you talked about the weekend street markets that you used to visit with your grandma, and there's a lot of wisdom and different stories that occur there. And also there's a lot of strangers, and the only way to
Mhm.
really know what's going on in that crowded place, and as well as the crowded minds of strangers, is to talk to them. So did that opportunity, the weekend market, or anything of that sort, influence your passion and your devotion to get to know people, like, their stories.
Yes, I mean, I'm a very oriented person, so everywhere I go, I'm like picking up the small details, listening to the people, watching them, watch how what they're doing, what they're saying, and I even talk to them. So as you're saying, like I try to talk as many strangers I can, because I feel like everyone has a story, everyone has something to share that you can actually take from. And so I really remember vividly those weekend markets in Caracas. They
Mhm.
used to be each Saturday, and there was, Colonia Tobar.
Yes, I do.
Yes. Um, there's this small German colony that used to like travel around the country and posting their market booth with their all their they would sell all kinds of stuff, and mostly it was fruits and vegetables and things like that. But I remember that like going to each booth, it was something crazy because it was owned by different people, and I grew going through those markets. So I would like talk to the people who would sell the fruits, like the strawberry guy, to the girl who like made the crochet. There was a girl who created gloves and hats and things like that. And I would talk to them, and I would learn so much from their culture, from what they do, from where they go, and how they actually like grew in that culture of going around the country and selling stuff. So I really remember many, many amazing stories coming from that, and I actually included that in my book. There's a story just dedicated for that. So yeah, I hope I can share it when I publish the book too.
Yes.
So yeah, I like to like pick up those small stories and details from all the places I go. There's no like specific place. You ask me if I have a specific place I go to like every time. There is no such thing, but as I told you, I'm very like paying attention to details everywhere.
Okay. Okay, I know we said we had connection, and we do, because I think so many things are like me, like that you're saying. It's like things that I also feel. I'm the same way. Like, I'll be in a restaurant and I'll listen to someone's conversation, and like, not because I mean to, but it's just, I don't know, out of pure curiosity and interest. You could call me an
Yeah.
eavesdropper if you want.
Yeah, like I'm not nosy. I'm just it's just I'm there, so
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
I'm there, and it's like, people. I'll tell them like, hey, that a person's doing that. Like, oh, they're about to go to a trip in Michigan or something. And they're like, how do you know that? How do do you know that person? I'm like, no, they just said it in a conversation. They're like, but you're talking to me right now. How did you hear that? I'm like, I don't know. I just did. For me, it's like, yeah, this huge interest for like analysis. I was talking to my friend a couple of days ago. I was taking pictures of her photography. Like I'm doing a business. I'm doing a startup regarding photography and storytelling and videography as well. And I
That's
was
so
had
cool.
yeah, I had her as a client. Like I've never been in this sort of experience before because I usually like I like putting myself in other people's shoes, but at the same time, sometimes I forget that I can be a certain way different than somebody else. And I was getting her, I needed her story. I needed a story about her student life. The video and the photography I was making was regarding her student life, and I needed her insights to her life. And I kept giving her mine. I was like, this is what I did, this is what happened. And I told her all these little things. And I was like, to the smallest occurrence that led me to something that really like really was popping in my student life. And then she was like, Val, I'm not like you. Like I'm not like you. I can't think like that. I'm trying to come up with a story. I'm trying to come up. I'm like, you don't have to come up with a story. I'm doing it for you. Just tell me at least a little bit. Just tell me just bullet points of an experience that you think could be connected. She was like, I can't. And I was like, wait, people can't, some people can't do that? Like she's a computer
Yeah.
scientist and she's all about analysis and graphs. And just what she told me, logic, that type of analysis, logical, like, algorithms. And I'm like, I'm a different kind of analysis. I'm like, kind of like what we do. You know what I mean? Like, have you felt like that, like with somebody else?
Yeah, many times actually. I have a hard time like understanding that not everyone like has the same insight as me, or like, there's some things I consider to be common sense from my point of view. And when I see people around me that don't feel like that's common sense, it's like, wait, why? Like, why do you think like that? I'm so different. And I think the key is to actually understand that um being empathetic is like trying to feel what they feel, but like trying to think what they think, it's a totally different thing. And it's not easy, but I've definitely been there. Yeah,
That's why
it's it's crazy.
I understand your weekend market stuff, like, talking to people, because that's what I do too. I talk to drive-through workers, like restaurant waiters who come and waitresses who come, get my order. It's like I've
Yeah.
seen, how many people, how many times I've seen someone's face like looking at me like this and then looking somewhere else because they're like at work and I'm like talking to them about like just something completely random. Like it's, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I think that's like kind of like,
and they're like, I don't care.
yeah, yeah, that one
Yeah.
too. That one hurts the most, I think. That's the one that hurts the
Yeah.
most. I don't care one. But it's like I can see them like, I have to go, I have to do this. And I'm like, why am I so caught up in this conversation? It's like, I think honestly, that's to do with like being a writer, being someone who expresses themselves. Because when you express yourself, I think there's a lot of stimuli going on inside, you know?
Yeah, you open up so easily. And I was not like that before. I was a very sort of introvert. I was very shy. It would be like so hard to me to start conversation. And I was like more of a listener. So wherever I go, I was observing and listening, but I would not like act on it. But now it's different. Now, if I see someone and he's wearing a nice shirt, I say like, "Hey, you have a nice shirt. You have a nice hair. You have nice eyes." Like, I compliment people. I start conversations. I ask if something like feels curious to me. I just go and ask. I don't seem to care as much as I did before, and I think that's due to how much of maybe sharing my art has helped me, because like sharing writings is a very intimate and vulnerable stuff, and when I started sharing them, putting my name around them, it's like, okay, I can do that. I can talk to people, and talking to people have saved me a lot of times. So I totally feel what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, vulnerability is like what I aim to do. Like it's just kind of like I love uniting people's stories like ours and kind of like, showing people like what it really truly is to be human, how far you can go somewhere and what can you go through. And I know that, when it comes to that's kind of like why we're so expressive, because we have all those, things running through our heads, I think. And I think
Mm.
yeah, it's like, it's kind of like why I think you started writing, right? Was because you wanted to connect to people, um to relate with you and resonate with you. And also, I that's why I started writing too, because of that, because of heartbreak. Honestly, it was heartbreak. I started writing when I was a kid. I was in elementary school, and I would write about
Mhm.
the people around me in a journal. It was a diary. I didn't know at the moment, but I would write about people around me. And I was like, today I was at lunch and this guy told me this, or this girl told me this. And I would be so, I didn't know like that writing was a thing. I knew it was like you could do it, but I didn't know like it was also for expression. And I just remember like being, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like being, yeah,
same.
being,
Yeah.
yeah, being so like surprised that I could put those thoughts down. And that's how I remember I began to write. I began to express myself, was in that time when I was like in fourth grade, where I just got a random journal from school. And I was like, today my friend told me this and I felt this way.
Yeah.
So that was like my earliest memory. And also moving on to like audio visual work, like the one, like how we're doing right now, like I had to, because I felt like I preferred to listen and watch rather than to read. Because I know you read a lot, like, because maybe you like it. Not because, I mean, it helps your work too, but I think
Yeah.
you like it, right?
Yeah, I am a bookworm, yeah. I
Yeah.
love reading.
I think that's so good, because reading like gets you to, if you're a writer, like that gives you kind of like fuel as well. Like gives you different ideas, I think.
Mm.
But I think maybe you pair your illustrations with your writing, kind of like how I paired audio visual work like on YouTube and stuff with like my expression, because you felt like it was another way to kind of like emphasize your art.
Yes, I mean, I do write. Uh, I've been writing for a long time. Just as you said, like I had a diary. It was a Hannah Montana one, and I had a Winx diary and a Barbie diary, and I would like buy a new diary each month, and I would be like, Mom, I want an agenda, I want a journal, I want a diary, and I would write down everything that I felt, everything that I did in a day. Even when I felt too sad or too angry, I would go and write pages and pages of what I felt. Maybe because I didn't feel like there was someone who was willing to listen to me or to understand what I was going through. So, like writing them on a paper and then reading them, it was like a self reflection process in which I would like to go, and I still go through it sometimes. It feels like you're just giving advice to yourself, and it feels good.
So would
So
that
then it's
be
then it turned into journaling, and then I was also like drawing and painting a lot. And one of my biggest dreams was like going to art school and doing design. I couldn't go there, I couldn't do it. So then when I was able to like buy the stuff and sit down and do it, like I had the time, I had the ability to learn everything by myself. I was like, so yeah, I can like combine this and turn them into one thing and like have fun doing it. Sorry,
yeah,
I
so
interrupt you.
no, you're good. No, I was gonna ask you if that was kind of like the first accounts, like the first encounters, that you remember that you started writing. Like kind of like I also think that maybe that has to do with your Wattpad phase. Like I does it?
Yeah. Well, my first, like the first book I read, it was like I think I was 12, and it was The Hunger Games, and I loved it. I read it like 10 times after, and I kept reading it, and then I was like, okay, I have to give opportunity to something else. So I started like expanding my reading thing and read other genres, went into like more difficult books or things about like more of a real thing and not only fiction. And then I discovered Wattpad and started reading stuff written by like normal people like me. I stopped like looking at books like something that only a writer or an author can make, and not like anyone can write a book actually, you know. And then when I found Wattpad and started reading all those amazing stories written by normal kids who were at home just like me, I was like, I think I can do this too. You know, I even started a novel and published it there, but I know it sucks and it's horrible. It's cringy. I haven't looked at it. It's been a while, but I know it's horrible.
But isn't that the whole point of
And then from
Wattpad? To be cringy,
yeah,
to just
yeah,
kind of like start off somewhere, and that's the place to do it.
yeah. I mean, so many people grew from there. Like, a lot of people put a lot of energy and time, and they did a great job. It became a huge thing later on. But I stopped feeling like it was something from me for a moment. And then I moved on to Instagram, but I was so shy and so ashamed of like putting my name or being personal. I still am sometimes. I don't post a lot of like personal stuff like my face or what I'm doing or what I'm up to. But I learned that I can actually share my art and put my name on it. Like I made it, okay? And there's nothing wrong with it. If I like it and I'm a human in this earth that I share with billions of other humans, then there will be someone who would like it as well and share it. And then another person will share it too, and that's what happened.
That's the mindset. I think her name is Rupi Kaur. How do you say it? How do you say her name? Is that right?
Yeah, Rupi Kaur, yeah.
So
Yeah.
she influenced you as well, I would say, maybe because only you can tell me if she did. She was a self-published author. She self-published her book Milk and Honey, which is super famous. I've never read it, but I've seen so many girls bring it to school. They brought it to like, to like like in high school, I would see like girls have this book Milk and Honey, and they would bring it to class and lunch, and I'm like, what? Every time I saw something that was like very popular, I would be like, no,
Hyped up. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I'm too cool for that. But then it's not like I'm trying to not be like that. It's like, everything deserves its own, like it's popular for a reason, and I bet it's as amazing. I think it's poetry about, she says that it heals. It's poetry that about heartbreak and like different kinds of pains and that journey of like the most bitter moments in life and how to find
Mm.
sweetness. She would send her writing pieces to magazines and stuff, and they wouldn't, she would submit it and she would get rejected. So did that influence you in any way to self-publish?
Yeah, I would say she was the one who introduced me to this whole thing because um I used to think the same thing. I was like, no, I'm not going to read that book because everyone has read that book and I'm seeing it everywhere. But then I joined a live that she did on Instagram. It was a writing workshop and she was giving us such amazing prompts. And I was going through some stuff and when I was writing the prompts that she gave us, I was like feeling so inspired, and it was a moment of healing, and it felt so good. And everyone in the comments were like, "Oh, I'm feeling very very." I mean, it feels so good to write this, and everyone at that live was feeling the same. And I was like, I want to do this more often. So I started journaling and stuff, and I was like, I started like looking into her. I read the books and I was like, okay, this is so good. I would recommend you to try it. It's so good. I read Milk and Honey in a day, like in an hour even. Like,
Okay, okay, I will. I will find. Like, I think I want to. I really do. And reading is like I'm becoming to start like I'm bringing myself to read more. I usually read like articles and blogs, but books, I want to do it. I want to do it because I feel like it will like not subtract anything. It will add to like my creativity, definitely.